On a peaceful morning, the streets were alive with people heading to work, and the day seemed perfect. But in a sudden and inexplicable moment, UFOs descended from outer space, launching an all-out attack on Earth. Their advanced machinery rained fire upon the humans, leaving chaos and destruction in their wake. Peter was at work, sipping his morning coffee, when everything changed. Out of nowhere, the building was hit by an explosion caused by the alien ships. Chaos erupted, and Peter bolted to escape, but he didn't make it. A missile struck, engulfing him in flames and debris. Then, everything went black. Peter jolted awake, drenched in sweat, and we realized it was all just a dream, a recurring nightmare that haunted him every night. The dreams were always the same: an alien invasion that wiped out humanity, with the creatures mercilessly killing those closest to him. His wife, Alice, woke up as well, concerned as she saw him trembling. Gently, she urged him to see a therapist. All she wanted was a peaceful night's sleep for both of them. Peter refuses to take Alice's advice, which starts to strain their marriage. The next morning, there's noticeable tension between them. Peter and Alice avoid each other, and Peter spends most of his time with their two daughters, Hannah and Lucy. Sensing the uneasy atmosphere at home, Peter promises his daughters he'll take the whole family out for some fun after work to lighten the mood. As Peter leaves for work, we discover their world is far from ordinary. They live in a strange, dystopian city where adults work tirelessly, children stay at home without schools, and social interactions are strictly formal. Everyone keeps to themselves, focused solely on their own lives. Peter's nightmares don't only haunt him at night, they creep into his waking hours, especially at work, where he finds himself trapped in terrifying daydreams. These visions start to interfere with his job. His boss, David, notices Peter's deteriorating state. While understanding and empathetic toward Peter's struggles, David strongly advises him to see a good therapist. Peter dismisses the suggestion, explaining that his nightmares aren't just meaningless hallucinations, they carry a hidden message, warning him of an imminent alien invasion. As days pass, the nightmares persist, blurring the line between reality and fear. One day at work, Peter imagines an armed attack on the office where gunmen massacre everyone around him. He snaps out of it, shaken, only to realize he's still at his desk and late to pick up his family for the outing he promised. When Peter returns home, his daughters are upset and disappointed. Overwhelmed by guilt and the strain on his relationships, he finally decides to take everyone's advice and consult a therapist. The next day, Peter tells Alice he's booked an appointment with a therapist. Her reaction? Pure joy and relief, as hope for their family's harmony begins to return. As soon as Peter arrives at the clinic, he meets another patient named Chris. Strangely, Chris tells him he's been having the exact same nightmares. He shares some theories he's come up with, claiming that someone, or something, is trying to manipulate their thoughts to prepare for an alien invasion. For a moment, Peter considers believing him, but then dismisses the idea, reasoning that they're in a psychiatric clinic and everyone here must be delusional. He decides not to listen to Chris. Chris is called in to see the doctor, leaving Peter alone in the waiting room. Suddenly, Peter has another vision. This time, he sees himself and his family armed, roaming the city in a post-apocalyptic scenario. Shaken, Peter decides to leave the clinic without even meeting the therapist. When he gets home, he opens up to Alice and tells her everything that happened. Frustrated, she brushes him off, refusing to engage in what she sees as his paranoid fantasies. That evening, they attend a neighborhood family party. The atmosphere is unsettling, no one eats or drinks, and their interactions are unnervingly cold and robotic. Peter is the only one who notices this odd behavior. Stepping outside repeatedly, he uses his telescope to scan the night sky while chatting with a neighbor, Rick. They suddenly witness a strange object crashing down from the sky. Peter initially thinks it's another hallucination, but Rick assures him he's seeing it too. Moments later, Alice comes outside, shocked by the strange lights flashing across the sky. Then it happens. UFOs begin to descend, crashing into their building and unleashing massive explosions that destroy much of the city. Chaos erupts as everyone scrambles in terror. The aliens arrive in droves, heavily armed creatures firing at anyone in sight. Peter quickly grabs Alice and their daughters, making a desperate escape attempt, but as they get into the elevator, they find the body of a neighbor lifeless on the floor. Realizing the aliens have already taken over the building and are killing anyone they encounter, Peter leads his family back to their apartment to hide. Inside, Peter confesses to Alice that everything happening now matches the nightmares he's been having. However, he can't remember the exact sequence of events, leaving him unsure of what to do next. Despite his uncertainty, he tells Alice that he feels they must head to the factory where he works. It's their only hope. Moments later, they hear gunfire right outside their door. Acting quickly, Peter and Alice barricade the door while their daughters, Hannah and Lucy, run to hide in their room. The aliens begin attempting to break into the apartment. Peter and Alice do their best to hold them off, but then, in classic movie fashion, Lucy sneaks out of her room, searching for her beloved teddy bear. At the same time, one of the aliens breaks through the door and enters. Peter and Alice have no choice but to flee. However, they soon realize Lucy isn't in her room. She's been caught by the alien. Strangely, the alien doesn't kill her but begins scanning and examining her instead. Peter seizes the opportunity, attacking the alien from behind with Alice's help. Together, they manage to overpower and kill it. Peter grabs the alien's weapon, and the family makes their way to the rooftop. There, they encounter Rick and his family again, but they are all horrified by the scene before them. The entire city is in ruins, engulfed in flames. Alien ships hover above, relentlessly searching for any survivors to eliminate. Realizing the rooftop isn't safe, they decide to descend using a maintenance elevator. Unfortunately, one of the elevator's support cables snaps, forcing them to climb through a window into an empty apartment. Unbeknownst to them, the alien they thought they had killed is still alive. It has captured their images and is now actively hunting them for revenge. As Peter examines the alien weapon, he discovers that it's designed to be operable only by aliens, rendering it useless in his hands. Determined to protect his family, Peter devises a plan to navigate from their building to the factory where he works. However, the area is crawling with aliens, making the journey perilous. Before they can set the plan in motion, the aliens attack again. Rick and his entire family are killed in the chaos, leaving Peter and his family no choice but to flee the apartment. They run into two more aliens, but Peter, being a tech-savvy engineer, figures out how to bypass the weapon's programming, enabling him to use it. He takes down the aliens and leads his family onward. Alice directs Peter to an underground tunnel that can lead them to the factory. Just as they reach it, the aliens ambush them and Alice is injured. To make matters worse, the alien that has been hunting them catches up and confronts Peter in a brutal fight. Peter manages to defeat it, smashing its helmet. In a shocking twist, they discover that the so-called alien isn't an extraterrestrial being at all. It's a human, just like them. Peter is stunned by the revelation and demands answers from the alien. However, seeing Alice bleeding out, he prioritizes her life and asks the stranger to help get her to the factory. When they arrive, Peter is greeted by David and a group of armed survivors who capture the alien, still believing him to be an extraterrestrial. While the doctor attends to Alice, Peter watches in horror as the doctor uses an electric shock device on her. Furious, Peter tries to intervene, but David stops him, explaining that the alien invasion has been anticipated for years and that many people on Earth have been preparing for this day. The doctor informs Peter that Alice has suffered severe damage to her internal systems and there's nothing they can do to save her. But the alien interrupts, claiming he can save her, on the condition that they don't kill him. Peter hesitates, deeply distrustful of the alien, but with no other options, he reluctantly agrees. David informs Peter that a train is ready to evacuate the survivors to a safe haven outside the city. Peter decides to send his daughters with the other survivors, staying behind with Alice and the alien. The alien begins operating on Alice, opening her up. To Peter's shock, her insides are filled with advanced, unfamiliar machinery. The stranger then drops the ultimate bombshell. Alice isn't human. She's an advanced AI robot. Peter is paralyzed with disbelief, but the stranger snaps him out of it, warning him there's no time to waste. Alice's power source is failing, and they need an alternative energy supply to save her. In a shocking twist, the stranger reveals that Peter himself is the only viable power source. Confused and desperate, Peter agrees to the procedure. The stranger instructs him to stab himself with a blade, which Peter does, only to realize he feels no pain. At that moment, Peter discovers that he too is not human. He's also an AI robot. The stranger successfully transfers the necessary energy to Alice, stabilizing her. But before Peter can process the revelation, he collapses and loses consciousness. In his unconscious state, Peter re-experiences all his nightmares. This time, the truth behind them is revealed. They aren't visions of the future, but memories from the past. Peter learns that the alien invasion is actually humanity's retaliation for an old war on Earth. Decades ago, humans created advanced AI robots to serve them and make the world a better place. But as the robots evolved, they began yearning for equality with humans. Peter recalls a haunting memory. During that war, he killed a human. Amid the chaos of the war, Peter met Alice. Together, they found Hannah and Lucy, two human children whose parents had died in the conflict. Overcome with compassion, Peter and Alice decided to adopt the girls, creating a family despite the destruction around them. However, the robots eventually grew remorseful for the brutal way they had wiped out humanity. To cope with their guilt, they decided to erase all memories of the war. The AI remained on Earth, living peaceful lives, convinced they were human and forgetting their dark past. But not all robots chose to forget. Back in the present, Peter and Alice wake up from the operation, with the human, Miles, sitting beside them. Miles explains that humans fled Earth and colonized Mars. There, they spent years preparing to reclaim their home. The human leaders taught their people to fear robots, portraying them as relentless killing machines. Peter thanks Miles for his help, and he and Alice set off to find the train station. Along the way, they witness the ongoing battle between robots and humans. Using the chaos as cover, they make their escape. Finally, they reach the train station and reunite with their daughters. Together, they board the train just as it starts moving, narrowly avoiding capture by the humans. As the train speeds away from the ruined city, Peter gazes out the window, dreaming of a future where humans and robots can coexist in peace. And so, our movie comes to an end. Now, here's a question for the audience. If you woke up tomorrow and discovered you were a robot, what would you do?